When I told my family I was training to be an electrician, my dad blinked like I just confessed to joining a traveling circus. An electrician? He repeated, as if the word itself smelled like drywall and missed potential. You'll regret not getting a degree. College is an investment. A career path. Then he went back to checking stock prices on his phone, like my entire life plan had been a brief technical glitch in his afternoon. My mom was more subtle. She gave me her classic slow nod, the one she usually reserves for slightly undercooked chicken, and said, "As long as you're happy, sweetheart." Which is mom code for, "We'll never speak of this again unless you become rich or famous, preferably both." Trevor, my older brother, was the cherry on top. "So, like you're gonna wear one of those belt things and climb poles?" he asked, cracking open a protein bar like it was a mic drop. "Nice. Just don't electrocute yourself, bro." Thanks, Trevor. Truly motivational. The truth is, I didn't expect a standing ovation. But I also didn't expect to be treated like I dropped out to become a professional yo-yo influencer. I like the work. I like solving things. I like the feeling of flipping a breaker panel and knowing I had made the wires behave. But in my family, if you weren't in a blazer holding a tablet or writing Q3 growth strategy on a whiteboard, you were considered a cautionary tale in progress. They didn't even try to fake support. When Trevor got his business degree, full-on catered party. Champagne. Cake with a gold fondant graph on it. When I passed my apprenticeship exam, I got a thumbs-up emoji in the family group chat. From my aunt, who lives in Arizona. I still remember that first summer, working brutal shifts, hauling equipment in the heat, coming home covered in drywall dust, and eating gas station sandwiches like they were gourmet. I lived out of a basement room with a mattress on the floor and one chair, which doubled as my nightstand, laundry rack, and kitchen table. Meanwhile, Trevor was posting poolside selfies from some executive leadership summit and tagging them #grind mode. And every time I came home for a holiday or birthday, it was the same script. "So, still doing the electrician thing?" "Yep. That's great. You'll always have something to fall back on." "Right. Because I'm a trampoline, not a person." Thanksgiving was the worst. My parents hosted this over-the-top dinner with enough food to feed a high school football team. They made Trevor carve the turkey, as a family tradition, even though he's carved more LinkedIn bios than actual meat. At one point, my dad raised his glass and said, "To Trevor, showing us all what drive looks like." Everyone clapped. I think someone even wiped a tear. I was literally the one who fixed the flickering chandelier above the table 2 hours earlier, but sure, cheers to Trevor. I didn't say anything. I just smiled, chewed through dry stuffing, and wondered if I'd ever be allowed to be more than just the one who helps when something breaks. Over time, I stopped waiting for recognition. I worked. I learned. I got certified. I wired everything from apartments to offices to fancy homes with wine fridges bigger than my whole kitchen. I made mistakes. I fixed them. I got better. And slowly, without fanfare, I built something. A life. It wasn't glamorous. But it was mine. And while my family was busy making toasts to each other, I was building a future in silence. They didn't know it then. But they'd be calling me soon. Not to celebrate, but because they needed something. And this time? I wasn't the backup plan. The call came on a Tuesday. I was elbow deep in a fuse box for a dentist's office when my phone buzzed with a message from my dad. "Hey. Need a small favor. Call me when you're free." Which, in our family, roughly translates to, "Something went wrong and we've already tried everyone else." I didn't answer right away. Mostly because I was still mid-job. But also because I needed a moment to laugh before calling back. Small favor? Sure. Just like missing your kid's trade certification was a small oversight. When I finally called, he picked up like he'd been standing by the phone all day. "Hey, kiddo. Got a minute?" There it was. The kiddo. That word only made an appearance when he needed help or wanted to sound soft before delivering a hard ask. "What's up?" I said, wiping sweat off my forehead and bracing for impact. "So, we're opening that new office on Maple," he began, casual like this wasn't their biggest investment in years. And there's been a slight issue with the contractor. What kind of issue? They bailed. Took another job. We've got inspection next week and no one to finish the electrical. It's just a few things. Honestly, nothing you can't handle. I had to look away from the fuse box for a second just to process the audacity. He continued, We thought, since you're already doing this kind of stuff, maybe you could swing by? Help out? Just a family thing. Ah, there it was. Family thing. As if we were tight. As if this office wasn't built from the same real careers only attitude they used to beat me over the head with for years. How soon do you need it? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yesterday. He laughed. We're kind of in a bind. I didn't say yes right away. I didn't say no either. I told him I'd check my schedule. Which was code for, I need at least 2 hours to scream into a pillow and process the irony of this moment. Because here's what they didn't know. I'd been keeping tabs on this office build since they announced it at Christmas, the same dinner where I was seated at the foldable card table next to the kids and the crab dip. Trevor had made this big speech about expanding the family brand and creating a multi-tiered real estate experience. My dad toasted. My mom beamed. I was asked to bring ice. But I watched. Quietly. Saw the permits go through. Saw the concrete poured. Even walked past the site once or twice, just to see if maybe they'd call me for a bid. They didn't. They went with a corporate firm that probably charged 5 times my rate and called their apprentices Junior Installation Associates. And now that firm had bailed. And now they wanted me. Not because they believed in me, but because they were out of options. I talked it through with my coworker, Jonas, a guy with a beard like a lumberjack and the patience of a monk. Do it, he said. But on your terms. Not theirs. So I did. The next morning, I showed up at their office site in full gear. Tool belt. Work boots. Clipboard. Professional demeanor dialed to 11. Dad greeted me like I'd just saved the company. Liam! You made it! Appreciate you doing this. We're really in a jam. I nodded. Let's walk the site. We did. And to be fair, it was a mess. Half-wired outlets. Open boxes with cables dangling like limp spaghetti. No labeling. No logic. The kind of half-finished job that makes every inspector reach for their red pen and start dreaming of violations. I took notes. Lots of them. At the end of the walk-through, Dad clapped me on the back. So? Think you can pull it off? I smiled. Yeah. But I'll need a contract. He blinked. A contract? Yep. My rates. My labor terms. Overtime clauses. Rush job markup. All standard. He hesitated. You're not doing this as, like, a family favor? Nope. But I have a business, Dad. You wanted professionals. I'm one. He didn't like it. But he signed. And that was the start of something beautiful. Because now, I was the only one holding the wires. Literally and figuratively. The contract was signed. The tools were loaded. And I was back on site Thursday morning, ready to do what I did best, clean up other people's messes and pretend I wasn't mildly amused by how nervous my dad looked holding a clipboard. They gave me the official tour again, this time with my mom tagging along like she was scouting for a Pinterest board. Oh, you're wearing boots? She said, eyeing the dust I tracked and like I'd stomped through the Louvre. Just be careful with the new floors, all right? They're Italian laminate. I'll try not to offend them, I said, stepping over a roll of cable. Trevor wasn't there that day. Probably busy taking calls about synergy from a golf course. But his name was already printed on a door upstairs. Trevor Callahan, VP of Client Strategy. Glass pane, gold lettering. Real subtle. Meanwhile, I was the guy downstairs patching holes in their electrical plan with one hand and holding a flashlight with the other. The wiring job should have taken a full team a week to fix. I did it in 5 days. Alone. Every outlet, switch, and panel redone. New schematics. Code compliance double-checked. I even labeled everything, in both English and Spanish, just to spite the contractor who ghosted them. By Friday, I'd passed pre-inspection with flying colors. The city inspector actually complimented the layout. Said it was the cleanest circuit map I've seen in months. My dad heard that and said, "Wow, he's really good, huh?" Like I wasn't standing right there. I just smiled and kept working. Because it wasn't about proving anything to them anymore. It was about doing the job right, something they'd never really valued until it threatened their bottom line. Still, they couldn't help themselves. Saturday morning, while I was finishing up the lighting grid in the conference room, my mom brought me a coffee in a biodegradable cup like she was trying out for a guest role on HGTV. "So," she said, lingering in the doorway, "how's business?" "Steady," I replied, brushing plaster dust off my sleeve. "Got 3 more jobs lined up next week." "That's great." She paused. "You know, Trevor said you should really consider branding. Like logos, business cards. Maybe a little website." "I've had a website for a year," I said. "Your friend Cheryl used it to book me when her pool heater fried her breaker box." She blinked. "Oh. I didn't know that was you." Of course she didn't. Because for years I was just the kid with the toolbox. The one who didn't go to college. The one who never had a real plan. Now I was the plan. By Sunday, I was wrapping up final testing. Everything worked. Every room powered, lit, and clean. Not a single wire out of place. I typed up the invoice that night. It was longer than they expected. Not because I was petty. Because I was thorough. Rush rate? Applied. Emergency reschedule fee? Applied. Custom materials? Listed, priced, documented. Labor? 49 hours, rounded down. And at the bottom, in bold, payment due upon receipt. Interest applies after 10 business days. 10 minutes after sending it, I got a text from my dad. "Dad. Whoa. This is higher than we anticipated." Me. "That's the rate. You signed the contract." "Dad. I mean, sure. But we weren't expecting that rate." Me. "Then you should have called someone cheaper." I stared at the typing dots for a full 30 seconds before he gave up. Did I feel bad? Not even a little. Because while they were not expecting me to charge real prices, I hadn't expected them to ever treat me like a professional. Now, they didn't have a choice. I wasn't their kid doing a favor. I was the one who saved their launch date. And I charged accordingly. I gave them 10 business days. Not because I needed the money that urgently, though I definitely wasn't turning it down, but because I wanted to see what they'd do when faced with actual terms instead of family discounts and guilt trip coupons. 8 days passed with radio silence. Then, on day 9, I got a call from Trevor. "Hey man," he started, all casual like we were still 15 and splitting a pizza. "So, about that invoice." I said, already logging into my business account. Not a single deposit. "Yeah, Dad thinks maybe there's room for adjustment." "Adjustment?" "You know. Just like. I mean, come on, man. Your family. It's not like this is some Fortune 500 company." "No," I said. "Just a family company that budgeted for an espresso bar in the lobby, but not the guy who literally made the lights turn on." Silence. He tried again. "Look, we thought you'd be more flexible." "You were flexible when it came to hiring me," I said. "After your contractor ghosted. That was different." "No," I said. "That was urgent. Now it's just inconvenient." "Big difference." He sighed. "Mom thinks maybe we should all talk. Like in person. Sunday brunch?" Brunch. Of course. The great neutralizer of guilt and family tension, served with eggs Benedict and fake smiles. I agreed. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to hear them say it face to face. So Sunday I showed up. Dressed decently. Sat across from my mom, Dad, and Trevor at this overpriced bistro where they served pancakes that looked like abstract art and charged $6 for morally sourced butter. My dad led the charge. "Son, we appreciate everything you did. Truly. You saved us a lot of stress." I waited. "But we were surprised by the invoice. It's just a lot. For the amount of work?" It's actually competitive. But we're your family. Mom added, doing that soft voice thing like she was pitching me a charity. And I'm your electrician, I said. One you hired during a crisis. Who worked overtime. And fixed mistakes your original crew left behind. They exchanged glances. Trevor picked up the baton. It's just, we assumed you'd cut us a deal. You're assuming I still owe you something, I said, sipping my coffee. I don't. Mom blinked. You're serious about this? Dead serious. I gave you a professional service. I expect a professional response. Dad leaned back. You know, you used to be more agreeable. I smiled. That was before I was the guy saving your inspection. It was quiet after that. They paid. Full amount. No discount. I walked out of that brunch 10 feet taller, not because I'd won some argument, but because I'd finally stopped playing the old game. The one where I chased their approval by underselling myself. Now, I charged what I was worth. And they could either respect it or hire the next guy. Spoiler, the next guy wouldn't know where the kill switch was. Speaking of which, later that week, Trevor called again. Hey, small thing, the lights in the break room keep flickering. Any idea why? Loose connection, I said. Might be the grounding. Could also be karma. He paused. Can you fix it? Sure, I said. My rates are up 10% this quarter. He didn't laugh. But I did. Because for once in my life, I wasn't the kid they overlooked. I was the guy they had to call. 3 weeks after I finished the job, I started hearing things. Not from my family, of course. No, thank you. Card, no acknowledgement beyond the payment. But word travels. Especially when you've got mutual friends in construction, real estate, and somehow, someone's cousin who does catering. Apparently, the grand opening of the office was a full-on spectacle. Outdoor tent. Local DJ. Bite-sized crab cakes. Gift bags with the company logo. There was even a fake ribbon-cutting ceremony where my mom held scissors in one hand and a flute of champagne in the other. It looked like a ribbon launch for a luxury spa, not a real estate firm in Midtown. And then there was Trevor. According to my friend Manny, who was working security at the event, Trevor gave this whole Tony Robbins-level speech to a group of local business owners and clients. He walked them through the building like he was giving a TED Talk on success. This here, he said, gesturing toward the conference room, was a team effort. We had some last-minute challenges, but I pulled a few strings. Made it happen. Then someone asked, Wait, didn't your brother do the electrical? Trevor smirked and said, Oh, Liam? Yeah, he helped out a bit. Tightened a few things. I mean, I coordinated most of it. I helped out. Tightened a few things. As if I showed up with a screwdriver and a YouTube tutorial and didn't single-handedly rescue their entire build from electrical purgatory. When Manny sent me that story, I didn't get mad. I just stared at my screen for a while and let the words sit there like bad leftovers. Because it wasn't new. This was my family's specialty, revisionist history with a passive-aggressive twist. But this time, I decided to preserve a little history of my own. So I went to the office supply store, bought a brushed nickel frame, the kind you'd use for a diploma or wedding photo, printed my invoice in glossy color, and stamped paid in full across the bottom in red. Then I boxed it. No note. No comment. Just one framed reminder that someone had done the work. Someone who wasn't standing next to a balloon arch pretending to be the hero. I mailed it to their office. Addressed to Facilities. 3 days later, I got a one-line text from Trevor. Trevor. Dude. Really? Me. Just making sure you don't forget who saved your wiring. He didn't reply. But someone else did. A week later, I got a call from a woman named Rachel. She introduced herself as the project manager for a commercial property going up near the downtown strip. She toured my parents' office during the grand opening and liked the electrical layout. Clean. Practical. No unnecessary junk. She said. Asked who did it, and your brother said, Oh, just my brother. He helped a little. But it didn't sound like just helping. So I Googled. That part made me smile. I met her at the new build 2 days later. She walked me through blueprints. asked real questions, listened to my suggestions. And 15 minutes into the conversation, she said, "I like your style. Can you handle full install? Planning to panel?" I nodded. Absolutely. She offered me the job on the spot. No speeches. No family guilt. Just respect, and a rate 20% higher than my last. As we wrapped up, she paused and asked, "Out of curiosity, why'd your brother try to downplay what you did?" I shrugged. "Old habit." "Well," she said, shaking my hand, "he may have been the one giving the tour, but you were clearly the one who turned the lights on. And that meant more than anything my family ever toasted." My calendar filled up fast after Rachel's project. Words spread quick, and apparently, that electrician who saved the Callahan office became something of a low-key legend among local contractors. I had back-to-back bookings, a steady stream of client calls, and even had to start turning people away or booking them a month out. It felt good. Not glamorous, not flashy, but solid. Like I had finally stepped into a version of my life that made sense, one I built myself, wire by wire. Then came the text from Mom. "Mom, hey honey. Just checking in. Hope you're well. Still doing the wiring stuff?" The wiring stuff. Like I was dabbling in finger painting or tinkering with birdhouses. I stared at the message for a full minute. No follow-up. No acknowledgement of the invoice. No reference to the job I'd done. Just that same cheery vagueness she used when talking to the neighbor's cat. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another ping. "Mom. Also, any plans this weekend? Trevor might need a bit of help at his new space." And there it was. Help. Not a quote. Not a consultation. Just help. I didn't reply to that either. But then Trevor texted me directly, and unlike Mom, he skipped the fake warmth entirely. "Trevor. Yo. Real talk, I'm in a bit of a jam." He'd leased a tiny office downtown. Some startup scheme. Client First Property Analytics. Or whatever he was calling it this week. The lease was cheap because, surprise, the building had electrical issues. "Trevor. Lights keep tripping. HVAC won't run more than 20 minutes. I need it fixed before Friday. Have 2 investor meetings." I didn't respond right away. So he tried a new angle. "Trevor. Figured you could swing by. Family rate, obviously. Just a couple of things." Family rate. I stared at my phone and remembered the conference room. The one I wired while he was coordinating. From his couch. The break room lights. The 49 hours of work he described as tightening a few things. So I texted back. "Me. Happy to send a quote. Same rate as your last job." "Trevor. Bro. Come on. That was different." "Me. Yeah. Back then, you had a functioning budget." "Trevor. I'm building something here." "Me. So was I, while you were laughing at my tool belt." No reply. For a full day. Then he sent one more message. "Trevor. Fine. Just send the quote." I did. Same markup. Same rush rate. No discount. A couple hours later, I got a call from my dad. "Hey," he said, dragging the word out like it physically hurt. "Trevor says you quoted him, what, almost $2,300 for the job?" "Correct." "That seems high. It's a rush job in a busted building with multiple code violations and no blueprints." I gave him a deal by not charging hazard pay. He coughed awkwardly. "You know, it might help if we all just let some things go. Start fresh." "Sure," I said. Happy to start fresh. As soon as the invoice is paid. He sighed. "You've changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped working for free." He didn't argue. Because he couldn't. That Friday I showed up. Knocked out the repairs in 6 hours. Everything was labeled. Clean. Up to code. Before I left, Trevor tried to throw in a half-hearted, "Appreciate it, man." I just handed him the invoice. Due in 10 days. After that, interest applies. Then I walked out. The way he stared at me? Like he didn't recognize the guy holding the tools. And honestly, I don't think he ever really did. It took less than 2 weeks for the cracks to show. Trevor's startup, or whatever vague LinkedIn buzzword salad he was calling it, wasn't exactly thriving. One investor ghosted him. Another loved the concept, but never responded to the follow-up email. A third politely told him that his deck looked like a middle schooler had discovered PowerPoint transitions. I knew all this because somehow I was still on the family group chat. And Trevor, bless his delusional little heart, was still sending motivational memes about entrepreneurship every other day. A setback is a setup for a comeback. Grind now, shine later. If Plan A fails, remember, there are 25 more letters. Right. But maybe don't bet the rent on Plan W, bro. Then came the real gem. A text from my dad, out of nowhere. Dad. Hey, got an idea. What if we loop you in on Trevor's business? Could be a win-win. You provide electrical setup and support, he builds the brand. Shared profits down the line. No offer of upfront pay. Just vibes and support. I didn't answer. The next day, my mom followed up like she was calling in emotional air support. Mom. Sweetheart, think about it. You two could finally work together. Help each other grow. It's what family does. There it was again. Family. That word they liked to dust off like an old trophy whenever it suited them, usually after ignoring it for years. They never talked about family when I was patching walls at 2 a.m. to pay rent, or when I showed up to Christmas dinner with hands so cut up from winter jobs that I had to eat with my left. No, then I was just still figuring things out. But now that things were working, now I was a brother, a son, a partner. I almost let it go. Almost. Then I got the kicker, a forwarded email from Trevor. Subject line: Emergency site visit. Apparently, a new investor wanted to see his office space. Tomorrow. And the power was out. Again. Trevor didn't ask me directly. He CC'd Dad, who sent it to Mom, who forwarded it to me with this note. Mom, any chance you could swing by and work your magic? Would mean so much. So I replied. Me. Sure. I can swing by tomorrow morning. $500 call-out fee, then standard hourly. 10 minutes later, Trevor texted me. Trevor, are you serious with this invoice? Me. As a power surge. Trevor, you'd charge your own family $500 just to show up? Me. That's the discounted rate. The full one includes emotional damage. He left me on read. But sure enough, the payment arrived that night, full amount, call-out and all. I showed up at 8 a.m. the next day. Fixed the issue in 45 minutes. It was a cheap panel and a lazy install, likely done by the same contractor who abandoned my parents' project months ago. Before I left, I wrote in Sharpa on the new box. Installed by L. Callahan. Licensed and certified. Paid in full. That way, next time someone asks who saved the place, they won't have to ask Trevor. They can just read the box. 2 months later, something wild happened. The city's small business journal ran a feature called 10 Local Entrepreneurs Powering the Trades. Cute title. Big reach. One of Rachel's project partners had submitted my name. I didn't even know until a client called to say congrats. I pulled up the article expecting a passing mention. Nope. Full paragraph. Headshot. Quote and everything. Liam Callahan, electrician and founder of Callahan Current, is known for precision work, fast turnarounds, and rescuing nightmare jobs left behind by big firms. And right beneath it? Notably completed the emergency electrical retrofit for the Callahan Realty office on Maple, completing a week's job in 5 days, solo. Oh. I read that part 3 times. And then I just sat there, grinning. Because that office? That project? The one Trevor had used to puff his chest at investors and talk about coordination excellence? Now the city knew who really made the lights come on. By noon, the article was everywhere. Local LinkedIn, Facebook. Even got reshared by 2 real estate forums. My phone buzzed nonstop. Clients. Contractors. Former classmates who once joked I'd end up wiring basements for beer money. and right on cue. Mom. Saw the article. So proud of you. Red heart, let's celebrate soon, maybe dinner? Dad. Great write-up, son. Looks like business is booming. Might be time we talk about some future projects? Trevor. LOL, nice article. They didn't mention I brought you in, though. Right. You brought me in after every other option bailed. But sure, let's rewrite history again. This time, I replied. To all of them. Sent them a single link, a photo I posted on my company's site. Me, in uniform, standing outside their office next to the electrical panel. The caption? Callahan Current, no discount. No regret. That weekend I had dinner, but not with them. Rachel invited me to a gathering of local business owners. Big table. Real conversations. People who respected the trades, who weren't afraid to say, "Hey, we need you." I sat at the head of the table. And after a toast to new contracts and power that actually stays on, someone asked, "Where'd you learn to work like this?" I thought for a second. Then I smiled. Honestly? From watching people undervalue me. Glasses clinked. Stories flowed. Laughter filled the room. And for once, I wasn't chasing a seat at their table. Because I'd built my own. With wires. And terms. And an invoice with interest.